Welcome to this edition of ChitChat with BMAC. I'm your host, Brandon McMillan. I got a very special guest with me today. He's a graduate of Risco High School, also Southeast Missouri State alum, University of Missouri, where he received his graduate degree, and then postdoc at Southern Illinois University. I have my boss, mentor, and friend, Dr. Barry Aycock. How you doing, Barry?
Brandon, thanks for having me today.
You bet, man. I've been looking forward to this, and we're going to have a lot of things that we're going to talk about. You're 30 years plus, as a business professional in agriculture and various businesses, and from restaurants to residential care to even most recently multimedia. So a lot of good things to cover today.
Brandon, I hate to interrupt, but I always tell people that your demographic must be the boring demographic because you got the most boring gal on earth as your guest today. So that is a rapidly growing demographic, though, being a boring person. So you got the right guy.
Well, we'll see about that as we get into some of your adventures through life and to see how boring Mr. Barry really is. So, Barry, before we get into all that, as far as business philosophy and your experiences as a professional, give us a little snapshot of what it was like growing up in New Madrid County and the big town of Parma, Missouri.
Well, I never really thought about it until right this second, but I was actually born about 1 or 2 miles into Stoddard County.
Okay.
At age 3, I lived out in the country from Parma. At age around 3 years old, we moved into the Parma city limits. So I became a city slicker and a Parma pirate. Later in life, a Risco Tiger, a proud Risco Tiger.
Yeah. So, to describe a average day for 8-year-old Barry in Parma, Missouri.
Oh, I don't remember 8-year-old Barry. I just remember there was living in Parma. There was a wiffle ball, baseball, basketball game every day. I had many neighbors. I kind of felt sorry for my kids because they can't just go out in the backyard since we live out in the country and immediately after school have a baseball, basketball, or football game. Lots of football, lots of injuries. Yeah. Somebody was always getting hurt.
Yeah, oh, sure. That's typical of me too. My little small town for that, because I had both my grandparents lived in Oran, Missouri, so it was Oran, Missouri for me that we were out every day playing sports and riding dirt bikes and riding our bikes and throughout town and so forth. But so growing up, who were some of your biggest influences?
Growing up, probably my dad, because he was a very hard worker. Mm-hmm. I tell everybody he missed 3 days of work in 39 years of working for Malone and Hyde Fleming Corporation in Sykeston. And I'm sure those 3 days, one day he hit a snowdrift. He was trying to get to work that day. So one of the 3 days I know of, he was trying to get to work, even though he ran off the road. So my dad's a very hard worker. He instilled lots of hard work values to me and Bobby and Brad, Bobby being my older brother, mm-hmm. Brad my younger brother. I always tell my mom, who really raised us, that Bobby's her favorite, Brad's the baby, and I'm the middle child that gets left out and does all the work for her. And she agrees with that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your siblings, all you guys, I know all of you personally were good at sports in school. And so who was the best at what?
I was the worst at every sport you can name. Risco had baseball and basketball. Bobby probably could have played college basketball, but he wanted to start farming. He's always loved farming, driving a tractor, managing a farm. Both of my grandparents were farmers, so Bobby kind of fell into that heritage, that family heritage. It was in his blood to be a farmer. But as far as sports goes, Bobby and Brad were both great pitchers. Brad had the best curveball I've ever seen. I've seen him strike out the side. The SEMO baseball team, he was trying out as a walk-on, and he had those guys backing out on home plate.
Yeah.
And Bobby, he could throw 90 miles an hour when he was a freshman and sophomore. And he's the type of guy that if he played third base or shortstop and you're the first baseman, he would like to wait until the runner almost got to first base and try to knock you down. So he really liked to show his arm off, and he had a lively arm. But as far as sports, I was the worst in every sport. I would say I was average to below. Of course, I had 3 knee surgeries. They were all healthy. But Brad was a great finesse pitcher. He could also throw pretty hard. Mm-hmm. Bobby was a good fireballer and had a good curveball. Bobby was probably a college basketball player that never went to college. So
Yeah.
one of the best ball players in Southeast Missouri history, Bobby was. He was a all-around great athlete.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about Bobby in that regard. So, Barry, what's something very interesting about you that maybe people don't know about?
Well, one thing that my mom will laugh about if she does watch this is, this is something petty and minor, but my mom fed me bologna the first 18 years of my life, which I don't remember 0 through 5.
Poor man's steak is what it's called, yeah.
And my brother Bobby and my mom still eat bologna all the time.
Yeah.
Brad, I don't think it eats it very often, but I had bologna at least one meal a day my entire first 18 years. I don't think they put it in the bottle, but I don't eat bologna anymore in my adult life. If I've ate a piece of bologna, somebody needs to take my temperature because something's happened to me. Another thing people probably don't know about me is I collect lots of different memorabilia, but I collect Christmas movie memorabilia. I'm probably the largest owner of Jim Carrey, How the Grinch Stole Christmas memorabilia. I own almost every iconic piece that's in that movie. Not all of them, but 90% of them. So I probably have 500 to 1,000 pieces of sweaters, the lighting cannon, the Christmas tree sweater that the Grinch wore.
The who's who of Whoville.
Yes. I also have some of Alf Will Ferrell's memorabilia out of that movie.
Have some Christmas story pieces? Do you have some Christmas story pieces?
Well, there wasn't many left. If you can find one, they're very rare. But Christmas with the Cranks, Jingle All the Way, Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of my very favorite newer movies that nobody's ever heard of is Last Christmas. It has a lot of Wham! George Michael songs throughout it.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of memorabilia from that movie. But I have a lot of sports memorabilia, but my main focus has been Christmas movies because it's kind of a niche.
Very interesting.
Some days it is. My wife doesn't think it's that interesting, but we'll probably get into her later.
So, Barry, obviously, you have a love of agriculture, right? You've had several successful businesses over the years dealing with ag industry, ag services. Where did that love of agriculture come from?
Agriculture, I think, just has to be in your blood. Both of my grandparents, Will Schaefer, JON Aycock, both of my grandparents, they were farmers. It's kind of a true story, but kind of a funny story. My grandpa Aycock's family was from Calhoun County, Calhoun City, Mississippi, and they were run out of Mississippi by the boll weevil. So I'm sitting here today, Brandon, because of the boll weevil.
It was a boll weevil.
Ironically, it followed them up here.
Yeah.
My grandpa Aycock passed away, I think, in 1991, and I'm not sure the boll weevil was present in a huge population at that time, but the boll weevil actually followed the Aycock family from Mississippi, and we had to eradicate the boll weevil.
But you finally got them you with the eradication program.
It's one of the few government programs that worked. Yes, the boll weevil eradication program. Yes.
So it was a family history that kind of instilled that into you that you wanted to pursue it as an adult.
My uncle was a DuPont chemical rep, Dale Aycock. Both of my grandparents were farmers. My grandma participated in the farming operation. Therefore, it was kind of sort of in my dad's blood, but it run pretty deep throughout all my ancestors.
Yeah, sure. So, in particular, what was it about cotton that was so interesting to you that you wanted to be kind of part of that industry?
That's a really good question. I worked for a few cotton consultants when I was in high school and maybe the first year in college. And I just noticed that as I was evolving and growing up, and what I mean growing up is evolving into a business person, into an agriculturalist, that cotton could be manipulated. And it really infatuated me that you could spray something on cotton and keep it short. They have all these different insects that corn and soybeans don't have. I don't want to insult the corn and soybean farmer, but anybody can grow corn and soybeans. Yeah. Everybody can't make 300 bushels per acre.
So it was the complexity of the plant and the process of growing it that really interested you. That was the same for me too.
Cotton physiology is amazing. Yes, you can manipulate many different things. And, we could get into growing degree days and heat units. And you can predict everything about the cotton plant's life from emergence to physiological maturity. So, yes, it was the manipulation of the cotton plant that really turned me on, I guess.
Yeah. So let's chat about, and tying into that, your first business that you started, Aycock Ag Services, and some of the experiences and opportunities that being well, first off, kind of explain what it was, and then the opportunities that came along with that.
Brad Aycock, my younger brother, and I started Aycock Ag Services. I forget what year it was. It was after I'd worked for a couple consultants for 2 or 3 years. Ed Kowalski and Jimmy Joyner were the first two I worked for. They kind of instilled that passion in me that, they taught me what economic entomology was, why it's important for a farmer to have a crop consultant, cotton consultant.
So for those that are watching that don't know what entomology is, kind of explain that.
Study of insects.
Right. Yeah.
And back in the old days when my grandpa Aycock and grandpa Schaefer were spraying cotton fields, if they had 10 cotton fields, they were going to spray all 10 cotton fields. Mm-hmm. And a crop consultant, what they do is they try to be more efficient, and you may not have to spray all 10. You might just have to spray one field that week.
Yeah, and the other thing is the complexity of chemistries changed dramatically, over the last 20 years, 30 years.
We could do a whole book on the evolution of the crop consultant and the cotton farmer and their synergistic effect together, because it really has evolved over the years with BT Cotton. Now we have Thrive On coming out. So the evolution of the importance of the Cotton Scout keeps evolving.
Mm-hmm. So you ran this business for how many years? What?
27 years.
27 years.
We advised about 40 or 50 clients on when to spray pesticides on their cotton crop. Which
is the business I got my start with you. And I remember, I don't know if it was the last year that before I moved on to which we'll talk about in a little bit, but that last year I think I was involved, we had over 60,000 acres. It was a big year.
I've slept since then. I just remember it was sun up to sundown 7 days a week, and I vowed we would never do that again.
So at the same time that this business was going on and being successful with Aycock Ag Services, you had another business that was in the works, gaining momentum, AgSplorer International. Describe to the viewers kind of what that was and where it went and so forth.
Well, just backing up a little bit, in 1996, I won the National Cotton Consultant of the Year award, and I kind of got a lot of publicity and exposure out of that. And somehow, some way, I really forget how it came about, but I had a tour of a lecture series in Brazil. I went to Brazil and talked to many different cotton farmers, chemical dealers in Brazil. So I had a 10-day lecture series. Brad and I went over there and spent 10 days in Brazil. Somehow, some way, the Bolivian ambassador to the United States contacted me. And he had 8 cotton farms he wanted me to advise him on. And like I said, I forgot how I got over there, but I went over there and scouted cotton in Bolivia for 6 months. It was November to April, so it was the opposite season as the cotton growing season was here. As you know, Brandon, a kid from Parma, Missouri, flying into Santa Cruz, Bolivia, within itself is culture shock.
Yes.
So I didn't know what to expect. Is it safe? My mom was worried for Brad and I to go over there. It's where I met a guy that's still with me today, Marcelo Balderrama.
Yep.
While I was in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, consulting on the ambassador's 8 cotton farms, we'd go out to the cotton farms every day. I keep giving little side notes here. It's very dangerous over there, not because you felt like you were going to get shot, although we did have 2 translators with guns at all times. Mm-hmm. Never felt unsafe there. It was the 2 or 3 mile long fields that had snakes in them or
jaguars or whatever.
I remember walking up on I forget where I think it was a crocodile, but it was dead. But one farm that Marcelo actually managed for a guy named Ricardo Malki, it was on the banks of a waterway, and it was I forget where I think it's a crocodile or alligator. It looked like one or the other. I forget.
Yeah.
But yes, it was dangerous over there because if you get snake bit or your leg bit off by any animal, or they have many tarantulas over there, which I saw many of them. Did see some jaguars, but you're 3 hours from nowhere.
Yep.
Then when you get to the hospital, like I remember going to a hospital and visiting a customer, you can see outside. So they were pretty primitive back in 1998, 1999. But like I said, it was the opposite growing season. But while I was in Bolivia, moving forward, I noticed they didn't have some of the simple technologies that we have here in the U.S., adjuvants, surfactants, foliar fertilizers, plant growth regulators. So I told Marcelo, I said, Marcelo, we should start shipping some products from the U.S. to you over here in Bolivia, just simple products like an 80-20 surfactant or a liquid ammonium sulfate.
All additives that either make a weed killer, insecticide, or some other input work more properly, or condition the water to where it works more properly.
And I didn't know it at the time, but it was a perfect storm where Roundup, glyphosate was coming off its patent. And a lot of the generic Roundups that were coming out did not have a adjuvant surfactant load with it. So looking back today, that was kind of the perfect storm for me because that was our number one selling product back then, Synergize liquid ammonium sulfate. It evolved with the boom of generic chemistries.
Yes.
But yes, while I was in Bolivia, I told Marcelo Valderrama, who's still with me to this day, 25, 30 years later. I always say he's been with me longer than my wife. But yes, I noticed in Bolivia they didn't have some simple technologies that they did need to grow any crop over there. So that's kind of how AgXplore was birthed. It was born.
Yep.
And after I got back from Bolivia, I started selling some of those products to my cotton consulting customers, which I never really advertised it because deep down I thought it was a conflict of interest to be selling my cotton consulting customers. Yeah. Some of them kind of found out on their own.
Yeah.
Your Reed Burlesons, your Lewis Watkins, they were actually my head researchers back in the old days.
Yeah.
They tried the products out before anybody else did. So
sure.
We had a good farmer network here, 40 to 50 clients. We could try new products out on here in Southeast Missouri.
Was that a big part of your business early on with like going back to Aycock Ag? Did you do a lot of work for other chemical companies, kind of testing efficacy, that type of thing?
I did do a lot of contract research. It was fun, and it was a good service to the farmer. They got free product, and they could see what the product was doing before any other farmers could.
And a good practice for you as a consultant to kind of stay on the top edge of stuff.
Not only did we do chemistries, we also done variety trials. Mm-hmm. We had a very large variety trial of cotton every year, and we had of course, we fed the farmers, and it turned into a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. So back to AgXplore, you started U.S. sales in 99, somewhere around there?
We probably didn't have any sales in 99. We started shipping product maybe into Santa Cruz, Bolivia, through Arica, Chile, probably in 99 or 2000. But probably 2000 to 2001, we started having some local sales here in Southeast Missouri.
Yeah. Enjoy most. Let's take it two sides of the coin. What did you enjoy most about AgXplore International, and maybe what you didn't like so much about it?
That's a $1 million question, Brandon. I really haven't thought much about that, but AgXplore kind of evolved organically. It went from Santa Cruz, Bolivia, to Parma, Missouri, to really the whole world. Mm-hmm. I mean, by the time I sold AgXplore in 2018, we were in 30 states and I think 14 countries. Yeah. What did I like and dislike about it? It was really getting too big for me to manage. I never really saw myself as owning a big company, although it was a big company at the time. I mean, it's very humbling for me to walk into a co-op with Jen Posey in North Dakota and see our whole product line in almost every co-op in North Dakota, or walk into a 30-store big distributor in Northeast Arkansas and Southeast Missouri and see our product line in there. So it was very humbling for me being from a small town. And it was that way in many different states. So I never viewed myself as owning and operating a big company. It evolved into that. And looking back, selling in 2018, probably was the best thing that I did because it allowed me to spend time with my wife and my 2 young kids at the time.
Yeah.
They're not that young anymore, but I got to spend a lot more time with them after I sold in 2018.
Sure, because, at its core, I mean, you kind of kept that philosophy of grower first. And when you're growing like that, that's hard to do. I mean, that's hard to keep, I guess, all the balls juggled in the air when you're trying to keep that mentality on a large company.
I danced around your question. You asked me what I liked and disliked. I liked selling to farmers. I like selling and calling on customers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that the interpersonal communication between a grower and a salesperson is fun. You asked me who my mentors were. Charles Twitty was the best cold caller I've ever seen. He never heard the word no. I never thought I was a good cold caller myself, but he was. He never heard the farmer say no. And he always turned it into a maybe or a yes by the end of the conversation.
Yeah,
So
yes, he did.
He was a machine. He taught me a lot. We kiddingly signed a 15-year contract, and he was already old when he signed that contract.
Yeah.
And
I think he'd already retired a couple times when he signed that contract.
He truly just stayed to help us,
yeah,
help all of us. That's what he was here for.
He did. He was a great man, for sure. I enjoyed working with him.
But getting back to what pros and cons, managing a large sales force is like herding cats. I mean, you got half the people that are upset half the time. Nobody's happy all the time. So,
sounds like a travel baseball team.
I hate to complain about it because it was so successful.
Sure.
So I don't really have a lot of complaints. I'm just telling you what it was like for me in 2018 when I was at the end. Enjoyed 99% of it. The product development part, you and Paul were kind of big in that back then. And it was really good taking a product from nothing that the whole world uses.
That was the funnest thing about it. I mean,
magical time at Explore.
As a agriculturist, as you said earlier, to be able to go from concept of something that you think would work and then see it work. I mean, that's where the joy was for me as far as being part of all that. So you sold the company in 2018 and started Aycorp. Let's chat a little bit about what you envisioned Aycorp Holdings being, and then kind of, it's been almost 7 years now?
I've lost track of time. Time flies when you're having fun.
Kind of what you envisioned it to be and kind of where it is now.
Well, that's probably a misnomer about me. I don't have any of these big visions that everybody thinks that I do. I don't. Things happen organically. They kind of happen on their own. I just like to foster creativity. Whether I do a good or bad job at that, I don't know. I'll leave that for the critics to decide. But when I started Aycorp, I wanted to do some things that were fun, exciting, outside of agriculture. I've already been there, done that. Mm-hmm. Although I'm still heavily vested in the agricultural sector with cotton gins. We just purchased our 4th cotton gin. So I'm heavily invested in cotton ginning. I own part of an NBA basketball team, the Texas Legends. That was fun. Everybody's heard of Mark Cuban on Shark Tank. He really tried to do a reverse Shark Tank on me when we tried to get the deal done. But I'll never forget, Mark Cuban walked in, and the guy with me, who was kind of my rep, said, "We're here to purchase part of your NBA G League team." And he said, "Well, I've got plenty of money. I've only got one G League team, so the answer's no." So he pretty much took a picture with us and walked out. Well, I don't think he realized his partners had already sold 10% of the team to me. And they were a little bit freaked out because they was like, "Oh, the guy that was supposed to tell him that you've already bought part of it hasn't told him yet."
And he's no longer there.
It's the first time I ever heard the term, "Barry, we're going to have a difficult time putting the toothpaste back into the tube." So that's the first time I've ever heard that, and I've used it a few times since. But yes, Donnie Nelson is the one. He was the GM of the Mavericks at the time. I purchased 5% from him and 5% from Evan Wiley. And he actually bought them out 2 or 3 years ago. But me and Mark Cuban, or whoever owns the Dallas Mavericks now, we're really not clear about who owns the Dallas Mavericks now. But Yeah, I'm still partners with somebody. I own 10% of the Texas Legends, and Mark Cuban and somebody else owns the rest.
So with the Aycorp Holdings, you've got several companies underneath that umbrella. You have Aycorp Media and then Aycorp Sports. So you have a lot of talented people who are kind of spearheading these companies for you as far as the creativity and the planning and so forth and the managing. But as a fan, particularly about Aycorp Sports or even Aycorp Media, you can answer either one. As a viewer, what do you enjoy most about those properties?
You know, that's a really good question too, Brendan, because I really am a fan. I don't really have anything to do with Aycorp Media and Aycorp Sports except watching the programs. When I purchased YHC and started Aycorp Media in 2019, I did it because I wanted to document the history of Southeast Missouri. I mean, I wanted to document famous people that weren't famous to anybody else, but to me.
Yeah.
Mark Littell, for example, St. Louis Cardinals, Kansas City Royal, but baseball pitcher. Got to be friends with him before he passed away. Kenny the Magnet Stroop.
Yeah.
You know, he's famous to me. He might not be famous to everybody, but he's going to be one of these days.
Yeah.
I've done all kinds of interviews, state champion basketball teams. We had Zach Ward, the bully from A Christmas Story here. He's not from here, but he did visit here. And, you know, we have 1 million stories about him now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really just started out. John Fisher, he wrote a book about kind of Southeast Missouri, swampland to farmland. Intriguing book that tells the whole story about Southeast Missouri. So I really just wanted to document those people. That we have famous restaurants here. You know, we've documented some of those and some businesses around here. And we can document those forever.
Yeah.
You know, we have famous politicians from here. So when I set out with Aycorp Media, I really just set out to document the history of Southeast Missouri, something fun.
Yeah.
It's evolved into high school sports. I never dreamed that our broadcast in 2019, and I'll give Luke Carter, Andrew Moore, Torrey Peterson, Spencer Magruder, Josh I never dreamed when we started in 2019 that our broadcast would be as good or better than ESPN. But they are. Yeah. And I know people love it. I mean, people probably think we're making millions of dollars off of it. We're actually not making any money off of it. It truly is a public service.
It is a labor of love.
I love hearing people say, Barry, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
My dad, he can't get out of the house and go to the Bloomfield Christmas tournament anymore. Thank you for letting him watch his grandson play basketball.
I hear it all the time. As a matter of fact, we were at a event last night for my youngest son, a baseball event, and a gentleman had told me, he's like, man, I really like your guys' football broadcast. Me and my son watching, it's like watching ESPN, you know, and that's the best compliment you can get. And I make sure I tell those guys every day that's what's being said out there. So it's a great thing for our area, and yeah, I think there are 12,000 followers now on Facebook, you know, in Southeast Missouri. So I mean, it's a great thing.
I mean, we could talk about this all day because it is fun, but it is truly a public service, and it's kind of a mission for Michelle, my wife, and I to bring that to the area.
Yeah, for sure. What's maybe another additional question about Aycorp Sports? What's one of your favorite games that the guys have been able to bring to the living room? You
know, the very best game football-wise, and Luke always tells me that there's never a close football game on Aycorp Sports or in high school football. What was it, Jackson versus Cardinal Ritter this season?
This season, yeah.
That was a great football game to watch. It looked just like ESPN, ABC. The camera angles were perfect, and I'm not a camera angle person, so don't think I'm watching camera angles, but I do know when our cameraman messed up, and so that was a great football game to watch. I think it was the best one we've ever carried so far. Mm-hmm. But basketball, you know, fate kind of dictates what goes on in sports, and I'll never forget Coach Fowler's dad passed away on the day that my son's team, Bernie Mules, were going to play the Camels. Mm-hmm. We were going to do that game that night. Coach Fowler canceled a game, which he should have because his dad passed away.
Sure.
But my son scored 40 points that night against, who was it, East Carter County?
I believe that's right.
East Carter. So
yeah.
we had
a double-double, had 40 and then 20-something rebound. Big game.
I've watched that game 3 or 4 times, but 14 for 18 shooting, that's been my favorite game. But, we've had a lot of big games on Aycorp Media. Bobby Alford, Jim Riker. I mean, they're better than ESPN. James Hodges, Scott Cruz is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but I'm just a big fan, first, of Aycorp Sports, Aycorp Media. I mean, we're bringing it to people's living rooms that don't normally get to watch their relatives or basketball and football and volleyball in the area. Who knows? We might do the spelling bee next.
All right, Barry, so let's chat a little bit about business philosophy. I'm really interested, like, what do you think are some of the keys to your success in business over the years?
It's another $1 million question, Brandon. Success means so many different things to so many different people. A lot of people measure success with money. I've never been a person who wakes up every day thinking about how much money can I make. If I made money, it's happened organically, because I always tell people I've never had a job in my life. I have a lot of hobbies that actually make money, so I don't feel like I'm a money-driven person. It comes with working hard and playing by the rules. So measuring success is many different things to many different people. Michelle and I have many different businesses. Nursing home business. We got in the nursing home business at the wrong time when COVID hit. We've never made any money out of the nursing home business. We own 3 nursing homes. Used to be 4. But what does success look like for the nursing homes? It's breaking even for the month and making payroll. The Texas Legends basketball team, success looks like having a winning season, having the most fans of any G League team in the league. And Texas Legends, I think, have led attendance for the last 6 or 8 years. So success means many different things to many different people.
Mm-hmm. What would you say within that, though? What are some keys that have led to that?
Every company out there has a product or service to sell. You got to differentiate yourself. Mm-hmm. So I would say people do business with people. Every business that you can come up with, people do business with people. So it's those networking and relationships. I've got long-term relationships even back to the Explorer days. Mm-hmm. A lot of those old customers that are not even in business anymore, some still in business, still keep in touch with me.
Sure.
Mr. Mullenkamp, him and his wife go to Branson occasionally. They'll stop by here at the office and just say hi or give them a tour of the cotton gin. Letcher Farm Supply, Gary Letcher, him and I go way back to when Explorer started. His daughter, son-in-law, Chuck and Terry Broughton, we usually see them once a year, sometimes twice a year. We don't sleep for 3 or 4 days when we see them. We play cards constantly. They know more card games than anybody on earth. I always learn a new card game from them. They make homemade wine, so they always try to bring enough homemade wine to last 3 or 4 days. I'm not saying who drinks it, but yeah, so it's a relationship game. Yeah. Every industry, every business is a failure or success based on relationships.
And that's something that's transcends over different industries. I mean, if you have good relationships with people, chances are, and you have something somebody wants, you're going to have good success.
Well, you can say that in politics. The big buzzword in agriculture is tariffs. We've run off our biggest customer, China. Mm-hmm. There's not many businesses that make it when you run off your biggest customer, whether it be ag or your nursing home business, pharmacy, restaurants. If you're serving crappy food, you're not going to keep your customers.
Sure.
So everything you can think of is a relationship game.
Sure. So Within those successes of different companies that you've had, obviously you've had people over the years, not just clients, but people taking care of those clients. I mean, what do you feel like you look at? And I know every situation is different depending on the industry, depending on the business. But what are some things that you look at when you hire people?
That's another $1 million question, Brandon. You got the tough questions today because I don't really reflect a lot on that. But I always tell myself internally that I'm always looking for all-stars. Mm-hmm. When you walk in that door, you need to be an all-star. Does it always happen? No. Nobody's 100%. But you're looking for somebody who, has the gift of gab, but is also humble. Mm-hmm. Someone that can be a student of their game. Just like if you're selling ag products and you don't know your product line, you're not a student of the game. Yeah. How many reps have we seen in the past that try to wing it and they're not a student of the game? So knowing your product line or knowing your service, being able to transmit that over to the customer and making the customer trust that what you're telling them is true. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of building an all-star. Now, like you said, every industry's got different things going on within it that, can you be an all-star nurse or physical therapist in the nursing home industry? What are you looking for in that? They're all the same characteristics. Mm-hmm. Integrity, honesty, hard work ethic, student of your craft. I mean, that's one thing that Michael Jordan always did. He studied his craft and practiced his craft. LeBron James does that also. Mm-hmm. My son at age 16, yeah, he's still 16 for a few more months. My son studies his craft. My oldest son, computer science major, mm-hmm. he studies his craft daily. Mm-hmm. He's studying it right when you and I walked out of the office. He's already on next week's homework, maybe next year's homework. He's got a lot of sideline computer science projects going on that don't even have anything to do with homework he's got going on. So, it's a big deal to take ownership in what you're doing and study your craft. Mm-hmm. And being able to confidently communicate that to the customer.
You've already touched on it a little bit about, your definition of success doesn't always mean monetary gain. So take that and then maybe chat about some tactics that you use to motivate people, within your businesses outside of monetary gain. So it's not about just the salary; it's about something else. And what's some tactics you use to kind of motivate people that way?
It's another $1 million question. I don't know. I use all kinds of tactics all the time, but I never title them. I don't really title them and say, I do this, or this. Being a salesperson, you need to be somewhat greedy. Yeah. Because you're wanting to hit your sales numbers. Because if you hit your sales number, you should get those bonuses. In the nursing home industry, it's, if you've got 60 beds, you want 60 people in the beds. You want repeat business if repeat business is out there to get. So it's reputational. It's, I don't know what tactics I would use to describe this, but.
So it's more like self-competition with yourself.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. I think it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I think about my coworkers, people who have been here for a very long time, and I think about characteristics amongst all of us. And I think we all kind of share that. I do. I mean, I look at some of the people that we work with, and they're all kind of self-reliant, like take pride in what they do, want to be the best at what they do, and that seems to be kind of a normal amongst everyone that's here.
And I think that's a good point. If you walk in the front door or the back door here, you need to be a self-motivator. What can you do to help for the organization today? Mm-hmm. And that's all I really ask. Whoever walks in here and works, that's all I can really ask.
Move the chains.
Are you doing all you can to further this company today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So here's another tough one. In the business world, do you feel like you've learned more from failure or success?
It's another multi-million-dollar question. 90% of everything I've done has been a failure. I think the big mistake a lot of companies, a lot of individuals make when they do have a failure, I'll never forget when we introduced End Zone. I think it was Memorial Day weekend. We plugged up every fertilizer truck in southeast Missouri.
Yep.
I never dreamed that would be a problem. It was too wet. It was making candle wax come out the back end of the
fertilizer spreaders,
spinner trucks. Mm-hmm. But I think jumping on a problem or a failure and taking care of it as quick as possible and being honest with the customer about it, you can turn all those failures into positives. But I think the main thing you need to do, I've failed many, many times. I could give you 1,000 examples. I'm not going to do that because my number one philosophy about failing is don't highlight it. Don't talk about it all the time. Take care of the problem, take care of the failure, file it away for future reference, and don't make that mistake again. But don't highlight it.
Yeah, there's I forget where I read it. But this a couple of years ago, I read something. Maybe it was a TikTok feed. I don't know. It was about coaching, about committing an error on the baseball field. If you think of it longer than 7 minutes, it's going to stick with you. You can't think about the failures or relish in the failures. You just have to keep plugging, keep going.
Yeah, it's always there, and it's always there for your history where you won't repeat the same thing again.
Yeah. All right, Barry, so we've reached the point in the show where we like to play a little game called Versus.
Okay.
All right, so this first Versus, Barry, we got to set it up for the audience, okay? So I'm going to tell you what it is. You're going to know immediately. But hot dog buns versus sandwich bread. So, okay, give us the backstory on this one.
This is a lot bigger story for all my friends than it is for me. But I never knew there was a thing called a hot dog bun until I was about 10 years old. A friend of mine, Gina Wagner, her name's Gina Money now. I think we had our birthday party at my house for some reason. Maybe we was at her mom and dad's house, Welton and Sharon's. But
this is 10-year-old Barry, right? 10-ish.
I've slept since then, 8 to 12 range. And I still love hot dogs to this day. We talked about I had bologna. I don't eat bologna anymore, but I still love good burnt hot dogs to this day, which is weird because they're probably made out of the same thing. But anyway, I was at this birthday party, and they brought these things out called hot dog buns, which my mom always told me, put our hot dogs on sandwich bread, white bread.
Yeah.
So I never really saw a hot dog bun before till I was very sheltered, I guess, till about the age 10. But that particular day when they brought the hot dog buns out, I set the world record for 10 hot dogs. I was Joey Chestnut before Joey Chestnut was even a thing.
So we're going to prefer hot dog buns over sandwich bread for the hot dog?
I definitely like hot dog buns better than the sandwich bread, but I like them both with the hot dog. You can't go wrong with a hot dog either way, but I prefer a hot dog bun.
All right, so another Barry Aycock classic. This might have been a something you could have said a lot of people didn't know about you, but you're a pretty good ping pong player. So wiffle ball versus ping pong.
I like them both equally in my old age. Ping pong's a little bit more my speed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made a lot of champions out of ping pong players. I used to beat my son 21-0. Now occasionally he can beat me.
Yeah.
But I'd say in my older age, I still play wiffle ball once a year, but I prefer ping pong now. It's a little bit less movement on my 90-year-old body.
Yeah, it's all muscle memory right in the wrist, right? Another classic, crawfish versus tamales. What was that restaurant we used to go to in Memphis that had the great tamales there on Beale Street? Is it even still open anymore?
They still have great tamales. They're still open.
Yeah.
Blue City.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to have to go with crawfish on that one because they're such a treat because you don't have them year-round. I can get tamales all the time. But I love canned Hormel tamales also.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So one thing we didn't mention is that you're frequently can be seen at the Memphis Grizzlies games. So Memphis Grizzlies versus the Bernie Mules.
Well, Jonathan Aycock is my favorite player, so I'm going to stick with the Bernie Mules for this year. I'm going to wait and see how many turnovers they have this year before I change my mind.
All right. So, you talked about your passion for Christmas movies and memorabilia and that sort of thing. So, The Grinch Stole Christmas versus A Christmas Story.
Even though I've become friends with Zach Ward, the bully off A Christmas Story, him and I kind of keep in touch throughout the year. I'm going to have to go with The Grinch just because I think I'm the world's largest.
You might be a Guinness Book of World Records holder there?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I might stick with The Grinch.
All right. BCT versus SCAA.
There's no other tournament in the United States of America like the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. Growing up, my dad and I always went to the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. Going to Risco, I never got to play in the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament when I was a Risco Tagger. Now the Risco Taggers are in it.
Yeah.
And boy, do they bring the whole town. I mean, that was a great pickup for Bloomfield to get the Risco community involved.
Yeah.
Even though, like, the JV games I've watched there in Bloomfield are tense, but you're on top of the hardwood floor there. The fans are on top of the game. There's nothing like Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. The intensity and the tenseness of the championship game. I'll never forget last year when Tucker Temples hit the long 3-pointer to send it to overtime.
Yeah.
When nobody thought your favorite team could get beat, right?
Right.
So we won't mention the Puxico Indians, which are probably the favorite again this year. But there's nothing like a Bloomfield Christmas Tournament.
Yeah.
My whole life, you could go at 10 o'clock on the first day or the second day when it's a 1 versus 16, and you could sit anywhere you wanted to. Mm-hmm. It's not like that anymore.
No.
I'm sure the Bloomfield people thought that we, as Aycorp Media, Aycorp Sports, we were taking some of their gate away, doing live versions of the tournament. But that place was packed this past year.
I think it's brought more aura to the in-person experience, the Aycorp Sports coverage.
I know my good friend Jake Barge, formerly from Dexter, he was watching it in Oregon. Mm-hmm. I had cousins watching North Carolina, Texas. I mean, I think there's somebody watching that historic Bloomfield Christmas Tournament from all 50 states.
Yeah.
There's a relative that lives somewhere in the United States that really enjoys watching that around the day after Christmas.
And it's Southeast Missouri, it's great basketball.
So there's no comparison. The Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, it's nostalgic, it's historical. It's a lot better than the Stuttard County Tournament.
Sure.
Hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I know a couple of your favorite vacation spots. So I'm going to challenge you on which one you like better, Branson or Florida.
Well, I don't really like going anywhere now. I'm kind of a homebody, but I like Branson and I like Vero Beach, Florida. But I always like getting back home. Yeah. Home is where the heart is.
Yeah. So I know a couple of your favorite, one of the other things that we didn't mention about something interesting about you, which I think is really cool, is your NFL football helmet collection, which is pretty impressive. But along those lines, the Oakland Raiders versus the St. Louis Cardinals, the good Oakland Raiders, right?
I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals because they didn't move like Oakland did. Oakland moved to Los Angeles once and moved back.
That's right. They are the Los Angeles Raiders.
Now they're back to Las Vegas.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. So that was my childhood. But I was a big Oakland Raiders fan. I thought Ken Stabler and Art Shell, Mark Van Egan, Cliff Branch were the best players in the world at the time. So I'm going to have to go with the St. Louis Cardinals now, even though I'm not that big of a baseball fan anymore.
Yeah, okay. All right, so a couple hard ones here at the end. But chocolate milk versus white powdered donuts.
That's no comparison. I mean, I have an addiction to chocolate milk. I think it causes me to have kidney stones, but I still drink it. Every chocolate milk is not the same. They're not equal.
Yeah.
There's a place that has chocolate milk in a glass bottle out by Springfield. I think it's Mountain View Dairy, Mountain Home Dairy maybe. But they're in glass bottles. It's the best chocolate milk in the world. But I'm not an expert on anything, but I am an expert on chocolate milk, and I love it. I'm addicted to it.
Well, back when we were walking 1,000 miles a day, it wasn't so bad for a 7 o'clock stop at Risco store to get chocolate milk and white powder donuts.
It's true.
But
but I'm a chocolate milk addict to this day.
Yeah. All right. So last one, and this is one I like to ask everyone, but talent versus attitude.
That's a really good question. I'm going to go with attitude. We kiddingly always talk to both of my kids about, Jonathan's 6'5". You can't teach that. Mm-hmm. Talent is usually organic, but attitude can be taught. You can change your attitude for the good or for the bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're having a bad game, a lot of players get a bad attitude, and it brings the whole team down. So I'm going to go with attitude because attitude's contagious. Yeah. It can make or break a team. So I'm going to go with attitude on that one.
Yeah, and just like you said, I mean, when things aren't going well, you got to have that attitude to change it, to change your situation, or at least have the ability to attempt to, right?
I'll never forget. I hate to keep talking about my son, but no, I don't either. I like talking about my son. I'll never forget when he was maybe a freshman or a sophomore. He got moved up to varsity against Bell City, and he came in and hit 3 3-pointers, and the team was really down the dumps. And when he come in and hit 3 3-pointers in a row, it just changed the whole attitude of the team around. I remember Coach Long actually, I'll never forget at the awards banquet, he said John's enthusiasm was contagious in that game because it kind of turned the game around because Bernie wasn't very good that year. I forget whether it was, it was a freshman year. John got very little playing time, but he come in and made a big difference in that one game. That was probably the highlight of his freshman season is that 3-minute stretch he come in and played against Bell City.
Awesome. All right, Barry. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank
you bet.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. For more Chit-Chat with BMAC content and episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.